last thing I want to talk about is our demo artists. You've probably all seen the list in our latest newsletter. The only addition to that is that for September of this year, Frank Ebert has agreed to be our demo artist for that date. So, at any rate, now let's introduce our demo artist, Mike Hernandez. He's a native from Los Angeles. He's a plein air painter and he paints in gouache, oil, and acrylic. And his work has been featured in many publications as well as galleries. He finds beauty in the ordinary, and he uses a palette that resides at the crossroads of landscape and industrial. And tonight he's going to be doing an industrial one for us today. And he is a graduate of the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. And the other amazing thing about him is that he was a production designer and art director at DreamWorks and worked on such animated films as Shrek and How to Train Your Dragon. So he's very adept at computer work. He's also a member of a limited group of the finest painters in the U.S. called PAPA, P-A-P-A. So he's a worldwide sought-after workshop instructor. So without further ado, here's Mike. Welcome, Mike. It's yours. Make sure you unmute yourself, Mike.
Thank you. I didn't know I was still muted. Thank you for the introduction, the kind introduction. Thank you for having me today. Pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to be back for a couple of you guys who took my recent workshop. Let me pause that. There. Oh, there. No feedback. Okay. Trying to figure out my phone and my laptop. All right, so today I thought I'd give you guys a demonstration using acrylic gouache. And for those of you who don't know what gouache is, all by in and of itself, it's a water-based medium. The only difference between regular gouache and watercolor is that gouache is an opaque medium, so it's got a little bit of a white added to it. And because it has a little touch of white added to it, it's a little bit more opaque. But you could use it like a watercolor. In fact, when I start my paintings out in gouache, I tend to paint it as if it's a watercolor first. Then towards the very end of the painting, I start to build up a little bit more of that opacity. So gouache loves to be both an opaque and a transparent medium. It wants to be both of those things. But I've seen fellow artists of mine just use gouache like it was watercolor. Like they add no white out of the tube to it. But like I said, if you're using gouache all by itself without any added white, just know that there is already white in it. The only way you're going to tell the difference is if you put a gouache painting next to a watercolor painting painted from the same subject matter. One is going to have a little bit more spectral qualities to it. The watercolor will have a lot more color in it, detectable color in it. So I can show you guys a couple examples. Oh, and just before I forget to tell you, the acrylic gouache I'm doing tonight, the difference between regular gouache and acrylic gouache is regular gouache can be reactivated. Acrylic gouache cannot be reactivated because it's more like an acrylic because it has a polymer, like a vinyl polymer resin added to it. So when it dries permanent, whereas regular gouache can be reactivated with water again. So The reason I started doing acrylic gouache is they come in much bigger tubes. I like these really big tubes as opposed to regular gouache that comes into these tiny tubes. Now, once in a while, you could find in the Winsor Newton will make a 37 mil, but this is a 40 mil tube of gouache. So I can get more bang for my buck. I can get a lot more paint because I've been painting larger these days. I've been going as big as 20, 20 by 30, 30 by 40, really, really big. And you're not going to get by with these little tiny tubes of paint. It just doesn't really work. The other reason is I like to pile my paint on a little bit thicker. When it goes thicker, there's a threat of regular gouache cracking because it doesn't have anything to bind it. Acrylic gouache doesn't have that risk because it has the polymer in it to hold it together like glue. They look the same when they go down. There's almost no difference in the way they look because they both dry with a velvet finish, like a flat matte finish, which is why I choose acrylic gouache over regular acrylic. Regular acrylic dries with a shine, and I don't like that shine on regular acrylic. So the gouache has that nice velvety finish to it. Some recent pieces I did. This is the demo I did from the workshop I just did for you guys for Joseph. This was the second demo I did, which was the Nocturne painting. And the sky was done more like a watercolor where we just sprayed water and then just bled into the sky and just kept doing washes until we got that down. And then we just painted the whole foreground opaque, just use more like a thicker paint. The day one demo was something like this, which is more like oil, very thick, more alla prima, very, very heavy. I'm going to be painting on a canvas, and this canvas is called.
Mike, we couldn't see the paintings.
Yeah.
Oh, you couldn't.
Well, did you switch to your phone so we can see what you're putting out?
Are you only seeing me?
Yes, we're only seeing you.
We can
I'm sorry. I
actually
thought
see
you guys
both in
were
gallery view. I think that because you are chatting through your computer, maybe it's coming up on that's the one that's popping up.
We need the video. We just need the video on the other of your.
Yeah. Do you guys
I
need to
can
highlight
see your
that?
video on the other. I think that it's only in gallery view that you can see it. So maybe if the host can spotlight.
Someone needs to spotlight me. Yes. I wonder if I can just spotlight myself. Let me see. I don't have permissions, do I? Let me see if I can do it.
You are a co-host, Mike, so you might have permission.
Okay, there we go. Got it.
But now you're seeing a split screen, right?
Yeah. Yes, which is okay. Although, I prefer that when you're actually
I'll fix it.
demo to do that.
I'll fix it, Mike.
Joseph's got it. Someone is asking, does gouache dry lighter similar to watercolor? No, it's the opposite. Gouache tends to dry darker. It goes down lighter when you're trying to achieve brighter highlights, and then it dries darker.
Is that true for the plain gouache or just acrylic gouache?
It is true for both.
Okay.
Regular gouache and acrylic gouache act exactly the same. They go down the same. They look the same. The only difference is when regular gouache dries, it can be reactivated with water. When acrylic gouache dries, it can't, which is great if you want to do glazing like you would oils, for example.
Okay.
But they do act the same. I have had some people tell me that acrylic gouache dries faster for them out in the field. I wouldn't know that because I put my acrylic gouache in these big tubes and I pile in a lot of paint. And when I do that, it really doesn't have time to dry. But if you're putting it out on a pallet like this out in the field, yeah, it's probably going to dry really fast. The acrylic gouache, I would say, probably dries a little bit quicker. Like I said, you're not going to notice that in the studio. You would probably only notice that out in the field. So
when
acrylic
you go to
gouache is
frame,
permanent like regular acrylic, yes.
so,
You do not need to put glass over it.
okay, got it.
So, but regular gouache, yes, you do need to put glass. I don't like to, I know a lot of people have got into the debate over, do you fix it? Do you spray it? I don't do any of those things because some, you know, even the wax method can sometimes change the contrast a little bit. And I will be showing you guys those paintings in a second again, but I tend to just put, you know, non-glare glass. It's a little more expensive, but it looks better on the piece as opposed to spraying it. So yeah, this was the demo from a couple days ago that I did this past weekend for Joseph for that workshop. This is demo number 2. And then this demo, the sky, was done like a watercolor. It was purely washed in. So what I did is I took my spray bottle and I pre-wet it. And this was like 300-pound watercolor paper that I painted it on. And I just did wet, transparent layers, layer after layer after layer, until I got the sky to work. So I worked from the lightest color to the darkest. Then I just painted alla prima on top of the background. And so all of this is painted with thick paint once it was done. So that was it. I have used Daniel Smith. They're really, really great. But because I'm sponsored by Holbein, I use mostly Holbein these days. So that was that demos. That was demo day 2. Demo day 1 was more like painted like an oil or an acrylic, right? It's just really, really heavy. This is regular. Both of these are regular gouache, but I painted this one on day 1, so it's just kind of heavy. And this canvas panel that I'm going to be using is called watercolor canvas, and I got it from Hobby Lobby, from the Masters. I think it's called Masters Touch watercolor canvas. It's a very, very smooth finished canvas board. It doesn't have a lot of tooth at all, which is why I really like it. A painting that I've done on this before. This was another demo that I did. This is also using acrylic gouache. So you can see that acrylic gouache doesn't really look all that different from regular gouache. I can still get my soft, dry brushed edges, wet edges, different things like that. So this was painted on the same size 8x10, which is what I'm going to be doing for you guys today, an 8x10. That's what that looks like. And some of the larger paintings I've done, this is another nocturne I did. It's just a studio piece on a canvas panel, not a canvas panel. This is on a masonite panel. And I painted this one. And this one is acrylic gouache, but I did spray varnish this one just to see what it would look like with a spray varnish on it. And I didn't like it, but I think it's fine. It's not as shiny because the board itself has a little bit of a tooth to it. So that's what, if you look at these, they almost have the feel of like an oil painting to them. So there's that one there. And here's a much bigger painting, you know, painted more like an oil. This one is like a 16x20. So I can't really fit the whole thing in the screen to show you what it would look like. But this one is acrylic gouache as well. So you can see it doesn't really have much of a sheen on it. It's pretty matte. It's very flat of a finish. So this is a pretty big piece. This is also painted on that watercolor canvas, but you can see how I'm able to pile that paint on there almost like an oil. That I wouldn't dare do with regular gouache. I can do that with acrylic gouache.
So I have a question from
Yes.
the audience. They want to know if you can paint gouache on top of the acrylic gouache.
Yes, you can. I can do that. You can do that. It's better if you mix them together. And that's what I'm going to do today because I'm all out of the blue that I normally use for acrylic gouache. I'm going to use this blue, and I'll go over the names of the colors I'm using today. This is from Holbein, and it's Katsura blue. It's a really nice, deep ultramarine. So it's really, really nice. No, I've never used Frederick's watercolor canvas. Would love to try it though. But here are all the colors that I'm using. Everything is acrylic gouache. Everything is Holbein. Because again, I get sponsored by Holbein, so they just give me a bunch of goodies and I use their stuff. Holbein and Turner. Here is my yellow is going to be light yellow, orange. I've got permanent red. I have got primary magenta. I have got violet. I have got burnt sienna. And I think that is it. And then I just got the white I'm using is the, where did I put my tube of white? Primary white. And that is it. Brushes that I'm going to be using are going to be the 3/4 inch flat. And I don't buy expensive watercolor brushes because I'm adding white to them. If you add any white and paint thick like I do, you're going to damage really expensive sable brushes. So I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. I've damaged so many beautiful expensive sable brushes in the past. So I just get some decent acrylic brushes, and those tend to work really well. It's like synthetics. So that's a 3/4. I have a 1/2 inch, and I'll usually like to use like a number 6, number 7, or a number 8 round for like finishing details, and that's it. I'll usually do most of my painting with the 3/4. So if you guys take a look at that photo reference I sent you guys, so it is an industrial piece. Love doing industrials. I love that there's just a little hint of lighting, but I'm going to exaggerate that lighting. I'm going to have some fun. We're going to do something really, really groovy. I'm going to push the warm and cool temperatures on this painting and really push color contrast on there. Really cool shadows, really, really warm, rich, warm sunlight on this thing, and play that up. I've already done the line drawing, so that way we have enough time to do this painting. What time do I have until? How long do I go?
Till 9 o'clock.
Okay, good. So we got some time. So we got an hour and a half. There's no reason why I couldn't finish this at all. So what I'm going to do is spray mist over this guy. And the reason I want to do that is that way when I put I put my colors on here. You guys know this. You're watercolor painters. I don't get any harsh lines when I start doing washes in the painting. So I'm going to do some of this Katsura blue and a little bit of violet. Again, because I just want to get a nice
So Mike,
saturated background.
do you ever do plain regular watercolor gouache on the panels or not? Will the regular gouache work, or do you always use acrylic gouache for your canvas?
Yeah, on this type of canvas?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I've done regular gouache. It'll work because the canvas doesn't take over in terms of its texture. You really can't even see the texture of the canvas on when you're using regular watercolor gouache.
Okay.
But if you were using regular canvas, that would be a problem because then it overwhelms the subtlety of gouache, right? Just like it would like you wouldn't want to use watercolor on regular canvas.
Right.
It would just the textures overwhelm the subtleties.
Okay.
But you could use watercolor. You can see what this is looking like in here, right? There's the textures of the canvas don't overwhelm the quality of the surface, the color, or the texture at all. Go back to my reference image. So I can't see the zoom anymore because I've now used my computer to just bring up my reference image. So if you guys have questions, please somebody can read them to me as they come along.
Yep.
So very transparent, right? There still is a real subtle hint of white, even in these washes, but it's almost undetectable.
Mm-hmm.
it's
So
kind of
did you
unpredictable.
use a regular pencil to make the drawing, or what do you use?
Just a regular pencil. Yeah, like an HB.
Okay.
So really cool, intense color. That way I can build up some of my neutrals. First thing I want to do is build up warm color, like, and build up a very saturated warm against a very saturated cool. Then I want to pull the grays out of all that, right? And then kind of play with the push and pull of those saturations after the fact.
So do you have the reference image nearby where you can put it next to it so people can see what you're doing? What you're,
Um, I I
you don't.
don't. Do people have the? Did you
Yeah,
guys
we
send the
sent it
reference
out
image?
this morning, but I have a lot of requests for your image. We sent
Oh,
it out this morning.
yeah. I have up on my table where my laptop would be, so I wouldn't be able to fit it onto where we can
Okay,
view both.
that's fine. That's fine. We sent it out in the reminder of the meeting this morning, so everybody should have it.
Let me see if I can pull it off of off of an email, and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I'm going to get my blow dryer really quick so I can dry this and speed up the process because that's going to stay wet for a while. I'm just going to plug it in right here, and then we'll just dry that out.
So is your painting area tilted or is it flat?
Flat.
Okay. And does the paint stay wet longer on the canvas than it? I guess it would since it doesn't sink into the paper, right?
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Does the paint stay wet longer on the canvas? Probably would, right?
On this
Would on
type of
paper.
canvas, it does, yeah, because it's a very smooth
Yeah.
sheen, like an eggshell finish almost.
And it doesn't sink in like paper does.
Not at all. No, so it's
Yeah.
going to stay wet longer.
Yeah.
So I'd prefer for this to go darker, but that's okay. I think I can just work with what I already have here. I'm going to start knocking in um, a little bit more value for the shadows. So I'm just going to continue with more of this saturated blue and violet. And just keep blocking in those shadows.
So everybody, the photo is in the chat.
Thanks, Joe, for doing that.
Yeah, it was thanks, Joe. It's a nice photo. I think what I like most about it is that it's a nice design. The perspective is nice. The grouping of the buildings are really, really nice. All of that stuff is nice, but there's really nothing special about the artistic statement, right? And so, um, I want to make some kind of an artistic statement, with the color and the lighting in here a little bit. It's a little bit bland when you look at it, look at the photo. It's got an underwhelming sense of lighting. And I guess it's part of my DNA as an art director in the film industry is I'm always trying to say, well, what could I use? How could my color and lighting inform a different message? And how can it inform a different story? I'm always trying to be a storyteller with everything that I do here. What kind of story am I trying to tell with color and light? And for me, I'm just looking for something more exciting. The location is exciting. And I'm thinking, why not do something really exciting with the time of day? So I'm thinking more of like late sunset, rich red lighting.
Paint doesn't look very opaque.
Right now, it's very transparent because I'm using a lot of water just to do blocking. So this is normally how I would start my painting process. It's very transparent and lean. It's very, very lean in the very beginning of this process. I want most of the heavier paint to be in the highlight.
Okay. So if you lose any of the hairs of your brush on your painting, do you pick it up right away before, or do you wait till it's dry?
A good question. And I feel like I get it right away because
Yeah, I would think so.
because gouache is pretty darn forgiving. So like if I took the hair out and it made a smear that's undesirable,
Yeah.
I don't worry that it like watercolor, you got to be more cautious about that kind of thing. It's not as forgiving, even though watercolor can be forgiving. I don't think
Yeah.
it's not as forgiving as gouache, where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna cover that stuff up anyway.
So can you move your canvas up a little? People are saying they can't see the bottom of the canvas.
Let me move the whole
Perfect.
table.
That's much better. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, always keep me on my toes because sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I might shift the painting and you guys won't be able to see it. See, I just added a little touch of yellow in here, and that little touch of yellow is now going to make it opaque. So some colors are more transparent and some colors are more opaque when it comes to gouache. So like the Katsura blue I used is very transparent, almost like regular watercolor. Whereas the yellow I just used and I added has a little kick of white in it that just made it more opaque. So it just changed the coverage a little bit. And I just used a lot of spectrum violet in this mix here, and that really didn't do anything in terms of opacity compared to what the yellow just did. So I would imagine with the darker colors you're going to get with gouache, once you go darker, they just use less white, obviously. So it's going to be the darker colors are more transparent, and obviously the lighter colors like your oranges and yellows and your lighter greens and reds, they're going to have more white in them, so they're not going to be as transparent as the other colors will be here. Okay, so this is decent for a base coat. I'll definitely be playing with the hues of these shadows a little bit more once I get some of the highlights of the building in here. I'll change a lot of that stuff. But for now, my mind is focusing more on value design. I want to see these structures come together. I want to see the light and shadow play more than anything here. I'm not really thinking that much about color just yet. I want to see these structures evolve. I'm going to clean my brush and I want to start putting on some light. That's where all the drama comes in. One of the biggest complaints and issues students tend to have with gouache is when they try to go lighter and brighter by adding highlights, it tends to look lighter as they add more white to their paint, and then when it dries darker, and that happens a lot. Two things are gonna happen with gouache: your lights dry darker, your darks dry lighter. And the reason your darks dry lighter is because it's very matte. It's not a very it's like watercolor, right? Like in watercolor, your darks aren't that dark because it's not like oil paint that has a sheen over it that can make it look deep. It has a matte, flat finish. So when it's wet while you're painting, your darks are going to look really dark. When they dry, they're going to lift a few values. On the opposite end, when you're adding white, it's going to look light, and then as it dries, it goes dark. The reason for that is you're probably using too much water. And you're going to notice when I paint, I use a lot of white, right? Maybe not in the very beginning here because I'm just going to be washing in my highlights, but as I start to build that stuff, it's going to get thick and really, really heavy. And as I get thicker, I'm going to add more white, almost like straight white right out of the tube. Really, really heavy paint, like oil, right? And I'm going to do that to make sure that I don't lose any opacity. So I'm going to get I want to nail down my brightest bright in this painting, and it's going to be in the lower. I want it to be in the bottom left and go up like this. So my darker colors will be up here. They'll be really reddish, but I'll have my brightest colors be down here on the bottom and then go dark to the top. So I'm striking the brightest light towards the bottom. I could go lighter up here and darker to the bottom. I'm just going to choose to go lighter here, darker in that direction. It's just a choice. All of this will be lightest, and the array will be like this. Like everything up here is going to be darker to everything down here being lighter. So I can start with yellow and white. Look at how much white I'm throwing on that brush. It's just heavy. And look at how that goes down. It's like frosting, right? Now that is not really going to dry that dark because I'm not really using that much water in the paint right now. So what you see is almost what you're going to get.
Someone wants to know if you would elaborate on what you mean by color story. It's not the color story, it's a story of the painting, right? That you're trying to do.
I'm kind of using color to tell the story of the painting, right?
Okay,
The buildings in and of themselves are characters. You know what I mean?
right.
I think of them as characters in a story, and it's the story of these characters and what the lighting can do to enhance the drama of those characters, right?
Right. Okay.
I'm going to tint. Think of it this way and I know a lot of artists don't think of it this way, but adding red to my yellow is going to cool my yellow down. It's going to make it a little bit of a pinkish yellow. So now I just went cooler, warmer. Now I'm going cool. And I'm going to have a lot of these shifting hue variations in here. A little bit red will go against a little bit of green. So let me see if I have any green. And if I don't have regular green in my I don't have green acrylic gouache, so I'm going to use green regular gouache. And again, I'm just going to be using here permanent green deep or light, sorry, permanent green light, so I can have some green. I could have mixed my own green and made it. That probably wouldn't have been a big deal either, but why not use it? But I'm just going to use this and mix it into my acrylic gouache, which would be better than just trying to paint regular gouache on top of acrylic gouache. It's better that I mix it into so they become more homogenized and blended. That way the acrylic gouache binds the regular gouache together. Let's get those clean edges, right? Want those nice clean edges in here. I may want to get some of this with blue all by itself. So I'm trying to shift temperatures. And the story on these buildings is kind of all the graffiti, right? There's all this graffiti on them. So I'm shifting all of those hues around to get that story. Go back to that little bit of orangish red, a lot of white, bring it up to value.
So is the paint completely dry when you apply the yellow
No,
underneath? No.
no, this one's still pretty wet.
Okay.
I'm gonna knock that down with some violet and blue. It's gonna be with this blue background, it's gonna be so easy to get warm color. Any of your, like this color I made on my palette is gray. On here, it's just warm as ever. So I kept adding purple and blue on top of this color here to kind of tone it down and neutralize it a little bit. And I'll continue to do that in different parts of the painting, where I'll neutralize it. I like going to Home Depot and buying the big rolls of those industrial paper towels. They're perfect for this. And that's what I've done here for my butcher tray. I've got that paper towel just folded over once with some sprayed some water on it, and loaded my paint. For studio stuff, that works perfectly. You can get a sponge; those work good. You can get the Stay Wet palette, but when you get the Stay Wet palette, I would just ignore the paper that comes with the Stay Wet palette and just go straight for like the sponge and wet the sponge and put paint right on that wet sponge. Just don't oversaturate the sponge because all of your paint will just get swallowed up in there. Yeah, this stuff just goes so warm on top of all that blue.
So someone wants to know if you usually buy your secondary and tertiary colors, or do you mix your own? Can you cheat?
I try to mix those secondary. At least the tertiaries, I try to mix those, and the reason I want to do that is so that way I can get more harmony in my painting.
Yeah,
Because if I don't, I'm not going to harmonize it. If I noticed when people use too much colors, if they have way too many colors on their palette, you're not going to mix colors together enough. And I learned that from practicing color scales with the gamut tool. Make a gamut mask. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but I'll use a gamut mask tool and create a bunch of gamut mask, small masks of the color wheel where I'll use only, and I'll limit myself to whatever's in that little window for a mask. And I found that, wow, you can get a lot of color in the painting by eliminating massive portions of the color wheel. And they went to tell me that we use way too much color in our paintings. We're using way too much color than we need. So yeah, it's probably better. But if you're a trained artist with color, you're trained to mix and harmonize color. It almost doesn't matter what you have. I just think with my students, when I've got students who go out and do, I teach plein air painting classes outdoors, then I'll have them limit their palette and use mostly like a few earth tones. That way, those earth tones tend to be colors that are more mixed. So we stick to the earth tone colors instead. So you can see here, I'm starting to go from this yellow to a more orangish color up here. And you can see that bright white I put down. Look at how it dried darker. So I'm going to have to layer that one and hit it again.
So do you use several brushes, or do you use the same one and rinse it out in between?
I mostly paint, probably about 80% of the painting is done with the 3/4 brush
With the same
and
one, or do you
the
have
same
several?
brush, same one.
Okay.
And I'll just rinse it off every now and then.
Okay.
And the reason I don't mind having leftover paint on my brush is, again, recycled color, right? Homogenizing
Yeah.
is a really big deal in paintings. People lose a lot of harmony because their colors are probably too pure. So I like a dirty brush. I'm gonna get some magenta here.
And so can you move your phone a little to the right? People want to see your butcher palette. There you go. Perfect.
Is that enough? Hold on.
Like,
Let me rotate this.
a little higher, because now we lose the bottom of your painting. There you go.
This is gonna bounce back. Give me a second here.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to rotate stuff. How's that?
Perfect.
All right, great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I just added some magenta to the mix and gonna add some light I'm going to move it a little bit faster and start painting quicker. Going to add a real big punch of magenta in the upper corner here as I graduate, because I really want that yellow, orange, pink, magenta. I want the spectral quality of color as it moves down the building here, because I'm really going for something overly stylized. I'm really aiming for extreme color contrast in this painting. I'm just going to open up. This is also, this is called Golden Brand Flat Acrylic. It's basically an acrylic gouache, and I'm going to use it like it's regular gouache because it does basically the same thing. It dries matte. And we're going to hit that wall down here again, nice and bright.
So there's a question about what's your favorite way for framing a canvas, a watercolor canvas that you painted with regular gouache.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I use my plein air frames. I'll show you right now. So there's a nice plein air frame, right?
Yeah.
There's my piece I did on the same canvas, just like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're the reddish ones. Sometimes I just go for the ebony ones with the espresso with the gold, but I love that plein air look.
Wow. Neat.
Big statement. I don't know if I would do it with this one. I don't know what this is going to look like when it's finished, right? I still got I got a ways to go on this one before I realize what I'm doing. So I'm starting to go a little bit heavier. Paint's getting thicker and thicker as I build up. I want to knock down the sky. First, what I'll do is I want to get that grass, the grass in here. I think people who've taken my workshop usually come back surprised with how much white I actually use in my painting. It's a lot more than they think I do. It's really heavy. Lots of white. All right, now from all of this, I'm going to make a big mud, add purple, add some blue, and I want to start neutralizing a lot of the blue that's up here. Just kind of scrub it down. It's a stormy sky, kind of, I think. I can let little hints of the intense blue show through, just a touch. So I'm thinking if there's all of this color on these buildings, the sky has to have some of those colors as well. So it feels like they all belong together. People ask what consistency I tend to paint with at this point, and it's a lot like house paint. If you're painting your house, it's pretty heavy, but viscous, right? There's a lot on your brush. Like if you were trying to paint a big wall on your home, you'd load up that roller with a lot of paint. So it's kind of what I'm doing here.
So some of your underpainting actually shows through, right?
It's breathing, yeah.
Yeah. And so someone wants to know your insight into your thought process behind your color choices, especially since they don't align with the image.
Yeah. So what I was saying in the beginning was, I felt like the photograph was only giving me the models
Right.
in a
Use your
in
own
an
color.
environment on a stage, but the lights weren't the color the in the theater, right?
Yeah.
But and I wanted to play up theatrical lighting,
Yeah.
drama basically, right? And so didn't have to, but that was my choice for this one. And when I looked at photograph, the photograph looked like the lights were off. The color gels were turned off. It was all neutral. is what it looked like to me. And so I'm thinking, well, if it's neutral, I want to play up some sort of drama. And how do I justify that? Well, something that's more sunset. Maybe the buildings have more, maybe the local color of the buildings are richer in color. Maybe not. Maybe most of what I'm doing here is just coming from the colors of the sky, like richer, redder sky colors and orange and yellow spectrums, just introducing more warm and cool. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was just push more warm and cool drama into this piece.
Yeah, I think you're doing it.
Still push, still push, still push. But again, at some point, I have to gray because it'll come off as very garish, right now. It's going to look really, really colorful. And then I'll have to continue to just knock it down and gray it out. Maybe this upper right corner can go really, really dark for me. Just so I can get that building to like pop as much as I can. All right, now I can start pulling down the shadow colors a little bit. But I'm gonna make some punctuations really quick. I want these little buildings up here, these really small ones. So a nice little accent, little place for accents. I think I'm just gonna take straight red and white and make these like these pink, because there's so much red up there. Maybe even magenta and white. Get that pink color, hot pink.
So do you have trouble getting the gouache, acrylic gouache off your butcher palette?
Nah, give it a little time to dry. I just put some hot water on this, wait
Yeah.
about 5 minutes, and it mostly slides off.
Okay.
And if it doesn't slide off easy enough, then I just take a wet paper towel and wipe it, and it'll come off pretty easily.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna punch more contrast into those shadows. They can go darker. They sort of need to match their sky. This is going really dark up here. Some of this is also going to go really dark. So if I want to clear a little spot on my palette, I'll just take a paper towel, dip it in water, and then just clear a spot. And you can see how easily
Oh, yeah.
it just lifts. no white. Let's see how dark we could go. I need some burnt umber. I'm going to get really dark. There we go. So I love these flat brushes because I can always grab the edge of this and work away from my found edges. Find that edge because I love just pushing hard against soft edging in my paintings. So I'm constantly counterbalance. Now it's like just having fun with counterbalancing color theory, right?
Mhm.
Warm against cool, playing up in the shadows, making sure that I don't have too much of a dominance of all that saturated blue that I started with. The entire painting needs to warm up. Even some of the shadow needs to warm up a little bit. Although, you know, I know that I said I'm going to have like it's warm against cool. It'll still be warm against cool, but you can't just have straight blue in your shadows. Got to have some neutrals and other cools, like some greens in here. Greens are a cool color. I mean, yeah, relatively speaking, it's warmer than that blue in there, but it's not as warm as the highlights. So there is so much room to push these other colors into the shadows because we have so much heat on the light side.
You have about 40 minutes left. So you're almost getting like a dry brush effect.
In some areas, yeah.
Yeah.
And I get that effect depending on how hard I want to push down on the brush and how fast I want to move the brush.
Yeah. So how much of the painting is dry at this point?
I'd say about 95% of it is dry.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh. So I try to, whenever I see a full, complete shape in here, like a window, a doorway, or something, I try not to paint the complete shape. I just kind of start with an edge of that shape and then move away from it. Because if I paint that complete shape all the way through, it's your eyes are going to lock onto it. It's too much contrast. So I love
Mhm.
having hard and soft edges in a painting. Allows the eye to kind of move in and out of shapes. Okay. Trying to do some simultaneous hue shifting, taking the value of the yellow and the temperature of the yellow, and then just kind of shifting it more either orange or gray or brown in different areas. Just kind of knocking down how hot that yellow is. It's a really yellow color, so I'm just neutralizing it in a couple of spots, not everywhere, just some parts of the painting.
So do you have any trouble getting soft edges for some areas, where you don't necessarily want a hard line, which is something we pursue in watercolors, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, not I don't generally have a hard time getting those hard edges with either one of these, whether it's acrylic gouache or regular gouache. A lot of times I can do well when I'm doing it with the regular gouache, I can re-wet those edges and just get them that way.
Right.
Or I can um, as I'm painting, I can kind of dry brush and get some of those edges. And I'll show you that in a second here. Like for example, um, up against the edge I'm painting with right here, right now, that would look nice if I got another edge against there.
Mm-hmm.
So if I just took some of this orange and got a little bit of a soft edge,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
just a nice soft touch. So soft edges, hard and soft edges are like extremely important in any painting, I think.
My eye tends to lock in on that diagonal line next to the yellow and the gray on the bottom there. Yes,
This,
and above. Yeah.
that's good. I kind of want the eye down here.
Okay.
This is where I want everybody to go. How much time do I have left? Half an hour almost?
25
25? Okay.
So that diagonal line really represents an area where the shadow is being cast on that building, right?
Yeah. And like right here, it kind of bled a little bit, so it's a little bit wobbly. So I'm going to come back towards the end and really cut this line and make it nice and clean.
Right.
That's these two big cast shadows really inform
Right.
the time of day. They're really important. I may also add another window or two up here. They're not in the photo, but I think it could look cool just to see them up there. Because we got some windows here. And we'll play those up. Got a window here. Again, I try to break the shape as much as I can. I don't want it to be a perfect square. I want a little bit of hard and soft edge on it.
Still going, so I really like this guy's stuff. He works in gouache, which is like an opaque watercolor, and he does mostly like. What, it was a meeting, not a. No, it was a, it's a demo.
Yeah, so we can still feel all of that warm and cool light here. Even though we knocked down a lot of that intense blue that we had, even we knocked down, but whatever we had for the sky, all that warm temperature hitting these buildings, you have to, that's why I warmed up the sky just a little bit. You have to have some of that in there so that it can all kind of make sense.
Be a unified painting.
Yes, yeah, instead of just this blue sky against red buildings. The other fun to be had in this is going to be when we come back and just start putting some grays, warm grays in these areas and the highlights. Can't just leave those alone. Really, like some of my favorite colors are the gray colors. That's kind of the glue that holds all of the pure colors together. It's all that gray. So, in looking at this body of color up here, for example, um, I want to try and make a gray. I already have some green on my brush here. See what that does. It's not enough. I'm just going to introduce some of this green in that orange. And add a couple of grays here and there. They're kind of woven in between other colors. So even up here, it could be in the form of architecture, structure of the architecture, chipped paint, kind of tying this into this together. With this bright, vivid yellow right here, there's a couple of things you could do to like balance out the intensity of that color. You either gray down yellow or you just add white to it, right? And I know that there's some graffiti in there. Some of this white graffiti on the building. And I will neutralize that yellow. So I'm just going to take the same yellow I mixed up there. Find a clean spot over here. I'm going to have to wipe this down in a second. Add some white to it. And maybe just get some purple, little touch of purple and add it to the yellow. And add a lot of white back into it. Because again, if you add purple to the yellow, it's going to make it darker. So you got to put white back into it to bring it back up to value. And then that just kind of neutralizes some of the yellow a little bit from getting to be too electric. Do that again. Let's add a little bit more purple. So by adding purple to this, I don't want it to look purple. I just want it to turn some of that yellow into a cream color. Yeah, that's cool. I'm just going to keep graying some of those colors out on the building. I may even push for something super gray, like orange and blue, and just get a super gray color here and there.
Fifteen minutes, Mike.
So I want to do more graffiti.
So would you have been able to do all the layering if you had used the regular gouache?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice. Normally, nothing's fugitive. Nothing really comes up again, but if it did, it's a welcome attribute, to painting when, you have happy accidents like that, when the colors start to come back up again. It just kind of creates a little bit of that unpredictable harmonizing. I mean, I love that when that
Yeah.
happens.
So how do you save the paints on your butcher tray when you're done?
If I need to save this, I'll spray it down and I can just put this whole thing and saran wrap the top and put it in the
Yeah.
fridge and it'll stay.
Oh, you put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend who does that with her oil paints. Actually, she puts them in the freezer.
Freezer. Do
Yeah.
they not? Oh, is that her oils or what does she put in the
For
freezer?
oils, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that won't freeze. Yeah. But not with water-based.
No. It almost looks abstract, but in a really fascinating and wonderful way.
It's daring. Like it's not my typical palette that I would use for something like this. But when I saw it, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if it was just outrageously different?
I love it, actually.
Just really push the bounds of color and light. I mean, if I really spend a lot more time on this, just, and which is something I probably will do beyond this demo, is I'll just keep going on it and doing all of the graffiti and all the other little details, intricate details on there, finishing that stuff off. Um, Probably wouldn't put, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see towards the end of the demo, I want to see what it looks like if I did put it in that frame I just showed you guys.
Yeah.
See how it.
Someone is asking when you would choose acrylic gouache over regular gouache and vice versa?
Size.
Oh,
If I'm going really, really big, I'm going to go acrylic gouache because also if I'm going to paint really thick and heavy, I'm going, which is what I do nowadays. I paint much thicker. I'm going to go acrylic gouache. When it comes down to it, um, brand for brand, or not brand for brand, but like medium for medium, regular gouache versus acrylic gouache. I probably prefer the feel of the acrylic gouache over the feel of regular gouache over acrylic gouache.
yeah.
Um, Not by much, but just by a little bit. Like there's a little bit of a bias. I kind of like it a little bit more. Um, but like I said, I'm painting so much bigger now that my paints they'll chip and crack when I go really, really large and start piling on my paint like it's oil, which is the way I'm just starting to paint these days. I'm just going heavier and heavier with my paint. So that's why I tend to veer towards acrylic gouache because the paint tubes are much larger. Um, and it binds a lot better, so it's not going to crack.
Put in the elevator from the top tower.
Yes.
So someone else wants to know if you spray varnish over regular gouache, does that stop the cracks and chips?
It does, but I don't like the look of it. It's unpredictable.
Okay.
Um, I've seen some bad things happen with my gouache paintings. Like I've loved the subtleties I get with the gouache, and then I'll spray it and then lose some of those subtleties because um, sometimes it can improve your painting by spray varnishing the look of it. It can make colors richer, a little more contrasty. But if I'm painting based on that subtlety, which I usually do with my paintings, and I spray varnish it and get the opposite effect, then it really bumps me out because I can't control for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been told that wax is the best way to do it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
even those like Mark Hansen,
Yeah.
who uses wax,
Mm-hmm.
he's even said, look, it does change your piece a little bit if you're okay with it. So I just don't know if I'm okay with it.
A lot of watercolorists are now using wax when they do plein air in competitions so that they can frame it that way. Then they don't have to put it under glass.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the look of the watercolor at all.
Nope. Okay, Mike, you got about 7 or 8 minutes.
All right. Right down to the wire.
Looks great, though.
Thank you.
Mike, will you send us a screenshot of the finished paintings? We include it in the video.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You got it. This is some of that graffiti up there. So we got that one little area of intensity down here that's part of the leftover part of the painting that I never really touched. I'm going to leave that alone and let that breathe in the painting, let that come through. All of this stuff is just articulating that writing, spray paint, graffiti stuff that I'll probably, after the workshop, I'll just keep finishing on here. I'll just keep painting it. And I don't have to like render it. It's just indicating and suggesting and implying that it's there. Implying little things like maybe architectural details here and there.
So somebody wants to know if you've ever mixed regular gouache with half water and half matte medium to make it permanent.
Oh,
That's
no,
interesting.
never tried that. And normally when I'm painting with regular gouache, I guess I like knowing that I can switch to that medium because I don't want it to be permanent. If I want permanent, I'll just stick with this acrylic gouache medium.
Right.
Um, because what I love to do with regular gouache is come back in and reactivate certain areas. I should see what this looks like in the frame.
Two minutes, Mike.
How many?
Two.
2 minutes. Okay.
Looks great.
Get to add more of these grays for that last 2 minutes. Just knock down some spots. Let's pop it in that frame just to see what it would look like. You never know. It's okay, but it's probably not the frame I would choose for it.
Right.
But it's okay. It's all right in there. So yeah, I'm probably going to continue to paint on this one a little bit more. And I'll send you what I already have now. I'll take a picture of this, and then I'll send you tomorrow the progress that I did on it, just to kind of take it a little bit further and just kind of fine tuning some of those other things, like maybe fine tuning some of the gray color, graying down certain parts of those rich aspects. But I think the overall message is clear about what I'm trying to say about this, just warming up the entire painting, and just getting a lot more theatrical color into that location, pushing that warm and cool. That's it. Did I hit the mark? We're done?
Oh, you're done. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And
You're
we
welcome.
have lots of questions. And
More than willing to answer whatever you have. Yeah.
thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mike. It was great.
It is great. Lots of thank yous in the chat.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah. I love the way that painting really developed into something substantial. The thing has substance, you can almost feel the mass of that building.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And like I said, I'll keep working on it, and I'll send you guys the update on it by tomorrow, the final.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
showing
you.
up and coming to the meeting. We'll see you next month.